Hi, hello, greetings. 'Tis I, A. Van, the author. Welcome to my POL, or Presentation of Learning, which is about my project this year, writing most of a novel, the first draft of the novel, Portal Searchers, Book 1, Falling. So, introduction stuff, because I guess that's relevant. So, hi, like I said, I'm A. Van. I'm in ninth grade. This is my first year in the Humanities Academy. I have been writing somewhat seriously since the end of sixth grade. So, for a little over 3 years, actually, I made my first story document on May 22nd, 2019. So, this story turned 3 very recently. My child is growing up so fast. And humanities is a class where you learn to be a human and have life skills and other human things, which is very helpful for me because you humans are very hard to understand. In this class, we are given time to work on our passion projects, which I honestly wasn't expecting when I first signed up for the class. I expected it to be like the Gifted and Talented program, aka Quest, which was this is interesting. Okay, so this is my co-author because I couldn't write this much on my own. This is K. Will. They are so wonderful. They've helped me so much. They are so talented and creative and chaotic, as you can see by these wonderful photos that I have personally selected. And they okayed because I was like, hey, these photos good? And they're like, yeah. I was like, okay. And they've just been such a huge inspiration, and they, wrote half the story. So, pretty important. So, what I did with the help of my co author was, like I said, write a story. So, at this point, the total page count is 103, and the word count is 30,763 words. And we're not done yet because novels, they're really long. So, fun fact about writing, you can basically do whatever you want with it, which also means you have to choose things you have to cut out. Very sad. But I did have to cut stuff out because, and there's a lot of editing that goes into it. So, a bit more context about the story. Portal Searchers is a fantasy adventure story where our main character and protagonist, Nico, who is the first photo on the left, drawn by me, learns that magic exists and then is recruited by our other main character, Emerite, the center photo, and their guide figure, Lord Washing Machine, who is on the right. I said Nico was on the left. Yes, so let's pretend Nico. I said Nico was on the left. If I didn't, if I did, then I did, and I was right the whole time. Yes. And is recruited by them to find magical items and save the world from evil. Because evil forces, they're always trying to take over. They're always trying to take over the world. Or should I say worlds, as the magic that Nico discovers is that there are multiple dimensions connected by portals, hence the name of the book, Portal Searchers. There is a dimension for nearly everything, and almost every dimension holds a different non-human society. Sometimes there's just one dude in a sea of pencils, and the pencils are mysteriously being sharpened, and he's like, what's sharpening these pencils? I'm not doing it. Why are there sharp pencils? They shouldn't be sharp. Nico is a 13-year-old human, as far as everyone knows, and is motivated by a desire to fit in or to find a place of belonging. Nico is a loner and doesn't have many friends at the beginning of the story, but obviously, once recruited, makes friends with his fellow heroes. Nico is very caring, somewhat impulsive, and wants to help save the world, despite initially being hesitant, leaving behind his own dimension, as you do. Nico is insecure in his existence, not quite sure where he fits in, and hopes that maybe somewhere on the quest, that perception of his existence will solidify into something. Emerite is a mentally 13-year-old, though technically she has been alive for around 300 years. She is somewhat immortal in the sense of she is going to keep going until something cuts her down, which, is that a bit harsh? Yeah, but, uh, you know, it's still cool. She's motivated by her dedication to Lord Washing Machine and his quest to save the worlds. Emerite has friends, but her work with Lord Washing Machine, who is both sort of her boss slash mentor and her guardian, um, keeps her somewhat socially isolated. Emerite is witty, knowledgeable, and kind, and possesses many talents from her research, like sewing and cooking, and probably how to do taxes, though she probably doesn't have to pay taxes, given that she lives with Lord Washing Machine. And Lord Washing Machine is the god of time in the Shard Pantheon, which is a pantheon made up of all the leftover bits from when everything first sprung out of the void. He is motivated by the desire to overpower the great evil and prevent destruction to all that he holds dear. Lord Washing Machine is very dramatic, adventurous, and curious. Given the time, he tends to collect things from all across time, meaning his house is pretty cluttered and also very hard to navigate. He cares a lot about Emerite because he practically raised her, and he is really good at making quick decisions. Okay, so why did I do this? That is an excellent question. So I chose to write this story with Catherine, my lovely, lovely co-author, Kate Outwill. Um, but I did that because, well, we'd already been working on it. But personally, the emotional reasons that I did this is I have loved reading since I was a kid, like really little, like 3 years old. And I was inspired by other authors and other book series, though probably the main one is Rick Riordan and his series, the Percy Jackson books. Those books, pretty popular. Um, so I was inspired by him to write my own epic adventure with fun characters and, uh, you know, angst. Yeah. And I look at my writing and I think, hey, I can make something for the world that maybe, just maybe, could help another kid feel like they belong. And it's also escape from your normal human life, which I must admit is kind of difficult at times. So it's like a little bit of an escape where it's like, this is my world and I can give the characters a happy ending. Um, and the psychological reasons I've done this, which half of them are my psychological reasons, but also it's just for the psychological reasons at large. Honestly, not quite sure if that's the right wording, but we're gonna go with it anyway. So I have ADHD, um, and two of my friends have OCD, and there are next to no characters with ADHD or OCD. So, K.Will and I decided that our project to project our own issues onto the characters. Nico has ADHD, and it just makes me so happy because I get to show, hey, this is what having ADHD is like in a character. Um, and then that character can do awesome things. And, like, it's not a coming of age story where he learns to cope with the ADHD, though that is important. But he's just like a normal kid. He's just like a normal chosen one. And it's fun. Um, just, I get to show what ADHD is like in a setting that isn't normal day-to-day life, that which I don't like reading realistic fiction. That's just my opinion of realistic fiction. So it's I'd like to see more characters with ADHD in fantasy. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it myself. Emerite's OCD is, the way it's portrayed is still a work in progress because I personally do not have OCD. And obviously the whole story is still a work in progress. Yeah, but I'm I tend to do a lot of drafting of the story in my free time because hyperfixation's part of ADHD. Um, so because I don't know what it's like to have OCD, I still need to, like, read more about it and ask for help from friends with OCD. Um, so the people I know with OCD are helping, but it's also still hard to find places to, like, work it in and keep it smooth. And it shall be added and it shall be represented as correctly and as well as I can manage, as we can manage. And I really hope that kids with these neurodiversities, divergencies, can see themselves in the characters and like be like, hey, that's me. I can save the world too. That's yeah. And metaphysical reasons. So I sort of just added this story into my lifelong quest to fight God. Not your God, lovely viewer, just a God. Just one of them, not one that you know or that I even know. Just whatever saw fit to allow me to exist in the first place and then immediately regretted that decision, for my vibes were too powerful. That is mostly my ego talking. Yeah. I this is kind of hard to explain, but it's like also sort of part of my like pagan practice, which I'm still new to that at this point, being in ninth grade. And like my view of it is if I do well enough on the stories of the worlds that I create, when my time on this plane of existence is up, I can continue to create these worlds in a plane of their own somewhere. And I don't know, it's really interesting. Is this a God complex? Perhaps. Do I need therapy about this? Maybe. I have a therapist, don't worry. um, but yeah, it's just like a whole thing. It's deeply important to me, and that image was made by my co-author. Yeah, it's a good image. And so, how I did it. So I and my co-author spent hours writing, like hours, years. I can say that we have spent years writing because technically we didn't start this project um, this year, but there it was many hours, many hours this year, like a lot. Um, so even when I couldn't get my brain to come up with whatever comes next, if my usual methods for getting myself to write weren't working, I would try to work on other stuff, other parts of my projects. And I have the screenshots on the top of the screen that aren't a Google Docs comment, are screenshots from a sort of like thing I have where I've taken a lot of my characters from all my different stories, because I have a lot, and I've put them into a sort of group chat together just to help myself like become inspired of things to write and just get to know their characters better outside of their story setting, because that's important. On this, I've also, as I said, included some comments from Google Docs that show what it's like to be a writer, such as spelling mistakes that then turn into actual pieces of plot, such as the Chorch, and, measuring 30 feet in, like, the worst way possible, timing-wise. Like, I could have done it so much more simply, but I did figure out how much 30 feet was. We also have a document of bloopers, things that we couldn't include in the story because it just didn't work, or we just like couldn't include it in that part despite it working because it wouldn't work later on, like too much information in one spot. So it's a couple stuff such as just random jokes that have been, well, not jokes, it's like just sometimes when you're trying to get your brain to work, you just write random stuff down, and then you got to take it out later because it wasn't meant to be there forever, but it was still good. Yeah, that's just a lot of writing and working and editing and going back and forth and trying to make it the best that it possibly can be. Now, on to what I learned. So number 1, I learned empathy. All of the things that I learned them. Yeah, I not I learned them. Lost my train of thought there. On all the slides of things that I've learned, I included memes because originally I was going to include pictures of myself and my sister, but because this is going on the internet, I was like, you know what, I would prefer not to do that, and so now it's just memes. So empathy. So I learned empathy from writing because I have to write from multiple characters' perspectives, and that means creating many new unique characters, not just the ones that I'm writing perspectives from, but there's certain things in writing that make stories good, such as if you have a character in the background, you need to have a good concluding arc for them. You got to make it work. You got to not just make them flat and like boring. You got to give them a personality if they're a background character. And that involves being inside the characters' heads and thinking, okay, I am this character. This is what I know I am like. How would I react to this certain situation? Blah, blah, blah. Figuring out how the characters are in their existences. And doing that to my characters, it actually made it easier to do on people in real life, which, I've kind of always struggled with because ADHD, neurodivergency, a whole thing that whoever is watching this maybe doesn't understand. That's okay. It's kind of hard to understand, anyways. On occasion, sometimes it is easy to understand. Anyway, it's hard to find an IRL example of empathy because understanding people in general is difficult. And it's just, I try to go into situations to be empathetic in as many cases as possible because I know people need people who are gonna be able to relate to them and whatnot. So I'm always trying to be empathetic or sympathetic as much as I possibly can. So it's hard to find specific examples. But I've noticed that I've been having an easier time understanding people's actions, and especially my sisters. As I said, I was going to include pictures of her because we used to fight all the time, but now that we're getting older, I'm starting to be able to put myself in her shoes more and be like, oh, that's why she's reacting like that, and that's why she's done that thing. And that's cool because now we fight less, and I understand where she's coming from, and it just makes it easier to interact with her in general, and that is really good. And I just understand where she's coming from more. Number 2, adaptability. So I learned adaptability through, you guessed it, writer's block. Writer's block is the worst, and the writer's block, it's not just me being quote unquote afraid to write something that isn't perfect, though perfectionism is sort of a problem with me, but I'm working on that one. But sometimes my brain just can't get the words to move, to go in the right order, to even appear at all, even if it's not good. Sometimes there's just nothing, and that sucks because I'm writing a novel with help from my co-author, obviously. But sometimes I just get stuck, and it's really frustrating. But I've learned how to sort of deal with that. I've found out through much trial and error with trying to get myself to produce content, that starting somewhere above the spot where I need to continue writing from or to edit, and then reading it through and getting into the zone of the story, and then getting to that point usually gets my mind flowing, and then I can actually continue writing from where I left off because I put myself back into the mental state of where I was writing last. And that's so awesome because life hack. Does it work every time? No, but it works a lot of the time, and that's good. And just dealing with other challenges in writing, such as making decisions about the plot and the characters and where everything's going to go, because writing is difficult. Yeah. And in the real world, in the physical world, in another class, I am writing a song, and well, I was writing a song, actually. I've submitted it now. And I was having trouble with the lyrics because I was like, okay, what do I want to write this song about? Like, I've done this bit of research. I should probably keep doing research, but I want an idea for where the song's going to go from. And it took me a while to find one that I really settled on, which is the one that is shown on the screen, number 7, written in code. I drafted 7 different songs before I got to that one. And I also edited that as I went along as well. Like, I had to keep working at it because I wasn't satisfied with it. But in the end, I was. And it's because I learned to adapt and to keep pushing and to just keep writing instead of just giving up. And workshopping the first song that I wrote down. Yeah, because it didn't have to be perfect on the first draft, and I've learned from that. Yeah. Now, open-mindedness, which that photo is in fact relevant. I just couldn't think of a better one for this, but it is relevant. So I've learned open-mindedness, not probably in the sense that you would think of. The sense that I think you, the listener, are thinking of is being open to other people and ideas, which I think I am pretty open in that way already. There's always more to learn and whatever. But that's not what I'm talking about in this particular situation. That is not me being dismissive of that. That is just me trying to make the words go in my brain. Anyway, sorry. So I think I've learned from this writing experience to not have such high standards for myself. Like, I usually have like really high standards, like I said in the last slide, perfectionism. Something that I do a lot, but I've been more like open to me not being perfect in every situation. I'm more open to the fact that I am a, you know, like not perfect. I said that twice. Like I've been able to be like, okay, so that really high standard is what you think you should be able to do, but you're not able to reach that absurdly high standard, and that is okay. You need to be open to it being not that, and I think I've gotten better at that. And I've also become more comfortable being in challenging situations because, like, I've become like, oh, this is a challenge. Instead of panicking and shutting myself off, I've been like, okay, let's figure it out. And also because we sent out our story for beta readers, which are readers who read through the story and give feedback and whatnot. I've become better at accepting criticism, which is really hard when you've put a piece of your soul into the world like you do with writing. And yeah, I think I've gotten better at that. It's easier to accept and hear, hey, that sentence, that is like the worst sentence I've ever witnessed in my life. What the heck? Not that dramatic. That's probably something I would hear from a friend, not like, Mr. Daly, who we sent a copy to Patreon to. Something from him would probably be like, hey, that grammar doesn't make any sense, which, yeah, it might not. That's probably going to happen at least twice. But I've become more open to accepting that that's not how grammar works. You can't grammar like that instead of being like, it's my sentence, I can sentence however I please, you know? And in the real world, I think I've learned this because we had to do a swimming unit this year, and I was not at all excited for it. See, I told you the picture was relevant. But I told myself, hey, you gotta try to be less negative about this. You gotta be open to the swim unit. You gotta at least try to not be hating on it before you even have your first class. And it turned out to be not that bad. It was still annoying because the showers were really, really cold. But that was like the worst part of it. Like, and I was nervous, but I had a good time anyways. And yeah, probably had a lot to do with the fact that I'm like, you can't go into this with a negative mindset. Yeah. And I also know how to write good now. Practice makes perfect. This is more of just a slide to show I have improved. So the big screenshot directly under the little header there is from May 29th in 2019. That is the entire scene. But then on the other side of the screen, on the right side, is now. As you can see, the screen has extended. It's screenshotted like that because I couldn't get the full scene on the screen. You don't have to read it. In fact, I would recommend not reading the whole thing because the way that I, number one, placed the words, I forget what order they're supposed to go in, and also because it's really small. Like you don't have to do that. It's whatever. It's just a show of I can write longer, and within that length is improvement. I also know how to be more organized with my other projects and how to know, hey, this is the amount of stuff you need before you can start a draft of a fictional world. And it's just I current draft compared to my first draft, it's just insanely better. Is this yeah. Okay. Thank you for listening. Here is the links to all of the socials and such. You can read Portal Searchers chapters 1 through 14 on Wattpad, which is my Wattpad account. There's other stuff by me on there if you want to check it out. At Duke Remus. Yeah, Wattpad kind of sucks a little tiny bit because of its just formatting and the whatever. And it sucks in the formatting sense, sort of. And how there's a terrible tagging system. That's not relevant. Anyway, there's good work on there, including my own. We have an official TikTok, which my co-author and I run together, which is at @hi_besties_. It's with a ZPS, which is Portal Searchers, and then there's an Instagram, which I don't pay attention to most of the time because I don't have a personal Instagram, which is official_Portal Searchers, no spaces. My links are my Tumblr at Jeffrey the Ghost, my TikTok at strange_corner_raccoon, and my Pinterest, which is the same as my Wattpad. And then K.Will's links, which you should check out because they're iconic. Tumblr is at SatlyT, not salty, sadly. There's a 132, and there's a dash between that. They have a Wattpad with it's mostly an inside joke, but it's fun, which is at Catholicism_lore. And then their TikTok is at @theCodly_Cheez-It. That is extensive inside joke. And the Insta is the Cheese Cod, and then YouTube is Fandomness Randomness in Kansas. So yeah, thank you for listening, and may I leave you with this one final thing. Okay, that's probably all I can play before copyright kicks in. Yeah, bye!